The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel welcomes you to this edition of the Mayors and Supervisors Weekly Update, brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Hey, welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Mayors and Supervisors Update. I'm Chris Garosa, publisher of the Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel, and each week we bring you the goings-on in the towns and villages that we cover. This week we'll be starting off in Lima. Mike Falk, hey, what's going on in Lima?
Hello, Chris. Thanks for having us again. Just a reminder, early voting in Livingston County, there is only one polling place, and that is at the Government Center at 6 Court Street down in Geneseo. It begins, of course, yesterday, which is Saturday, October 28th, and runs through Sunday, November 5th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, except for Wednesday, November 1st, when it's 8 to 4. Thursday, November 2nd is 8 to 8. Friday, November 3rd, 8 to 4. You can check the Board of Elections website on the Livingston County webpage if you need further details. But they will be set up. Expect to go in the main entrance through the metal detectors, and then you'll be guided down one floor to going to where they're doing the voting. So, the moment you've all been waiting for. The Water District 5 petitions have all been turned in. They are being counted. The official results are not yet available. However, unofficially, there are not enough signatures to pass. That said, the months and months of hard work to get every one of the landowners access to the petition has paid off in spades. Now you might think, why is that? Well, that is because now we have the absolute best map possible of where water is wanted and where water is not wanted. Add that map to the water testing, which we did, where the results indicated that water is needed due to lead contamination and arsenic and the other things that were found. And we have a much clearer picture of what is needed to be done. The other opportunity that has arisen, and I attended a meeting on it this past Friday, is that there is an opportunity to connect to the Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority source for the village of Lima and the town of Avon, which would be coming right through the town of Lima. This will provide an alternative water source for all three entities, and for the village of Lima water customers, this means cheaper water. For the town of Lima water districts 2 and 4, which is 15A north of the village and Tupelo Trail, this will also mean cheaper water. Now, if we combine a revised Water District 5 map with the village connection, we'll have the best possible workable project that we could want. Of course, it does take time to set up a project like this. So while the current town board will be responsible to consider it and consider starting it, it will be the 2024 board that will actually have to finish the project and get it going. I believe that we can all solidify behind cheaper water for the village customers, cheaper water for town districts 2 and 4, and water for those who really want and need it. The official results will be at the town board meeting, which is November 7th, also election day, 6 p.m., top floor of the town hall. And remember, if you're voting in Lima, you'll be voting in the boardroom on the first floor of the town hall, November 7th. And that's all I got, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Mike. And today we have a special guest, Dan Harris. He's a trustee of the Village of Honeoye Falls. Dan's filling in for Rick today. Dan, what's going on in Honeoye Falls?
Yeah, so thanks for having us, Chris, and thanks for helping us connect with all of our residents and getting the word out about what's going on in the municipality and our neighbors. As far as what's going to go on for the next couple of weeks while the trustees fill in on these calls, we're going to kind of give you an overview of our areas of focus. And I'm sure this is true for a lot of the boards out there that the board or trustee members have certain liaison functions. My liaison function is with the Highway Falls Mendon Volunteer Ambulance. And it's kind of unique. It's a pretty big undertaking for the village. It's the only municipal run agency in Monroe County. It's a mixed and volunteer and paid department. And typically, unlike what might be going on at, CHS or the other big providers in the area to our north, like in Henrietta, we have about one crew in the base at one time. That sort of fits with our call volume. And it's about 66% funded by patient revenue, and the remaining 1/3 is sort of shared between the town of Mendon, the village of Highway Falls, and part of West Bloomfield. It's like I said, big undertaking for the village. It's about 25% of our operating budget goes towards running the ambulance. It's about 11 or 1,300 calls per year, which is double what the chief was covering when he started as chief about 10 plus years ago. A lot of great updates in the last couple months. We've been making some progress after, a really hard time through the pandemic, like all of the EMS agencies, commercial and otherwise. It was a tough time, and we're starting to see some positive improvement as we recover from some of those stressors. We've been able to fill 2 full-time paramedic positions that will really help with the, some holes that we've had at times in our schedule. And it's a huge win. We got some very highly talented folks that have been per diems for us in the past. We also received some New York State CREST grant to cover the cost of a replacement ambulance. And we're going to have a big check ceremony here in November to celebrate, the award of that grant, which is really significant for us. The agency the corporations, that's kind of like the volunteers that support the agency. They're independent from the village, but they do support the same operational budget. We're able to secure funding for a power gurney and also power load system and some other equipment. And then we also, the chiefs all got together in Monroe County, and we were able to work together and secure some funding for educational opportunities for new providers. Because again, one of the big things is trying to find talent, and there's just not a lot of folks out there very competitive with other, demands like nursing or, work in the hospitals that sort of pulls on the people with that same talent base. So, in terms of, challenges and things that we're kind of going to be working on over the next several months is obviously maintaining and attracting talent so that we can really cover that really high call volume. And then as we are sort of at the corner of 3 counties, Monroe, Livingston and Ontario, that's 3 different dispatch systems that we have to interact with. Monroe County has recently switched to a computer-aided dispatch system that it's still getting some bugs worked out of it. And so, working on blending those systems together with our operations has been a challenge, but we're making some progress, and we need to work with, the 911 dispatch centers to work through some of those logistics and operational things. Some of it comes down to just having good maps of what the speed limit is in different parts of the county, and updating those. So that's kind of the high level of what's going on with the ambulance. As far as in the village as a whole, just a message from the DPW side is that, like everyone else, the leaves are falling, and our leaf pickup crews are in high gear, and we got to get all of that done before the snow starts flying, because it's the same trucks that do the leaf pickup for the village as that do snow plowing and salting. So make sure that you get ahead of your leaf pickup if you're in the village, and get them to the curb before it starts snow starts falling. And that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dan. Over to Steve in Henrietta. Steve, what's happening in Henrietta?
Good afternoon. So the big news is that the towns of Rush and Henrietta have entered into a coordinated assessment program where there will be one assessor who covers both towns, and the two towns will be treated as a single entity from a level of assessment standpoint. Today, Henrietta has a full-time assessor and Rush has a part-time assessor. So this one individual will replace both those positions. The new program has a number of benefits. First, it saves both towns money because the salary for the combined position is less than the sum of the individual salaries that would be paid to each town assessor. Second, it saves Rush additional money since they have had to go external to do reevaluations, whereas Henrietta has done most of their reevaluation work in-house, and that would continue. It also helps Rush residents since today their assessor only has office hours in Rush for 4 hours a week. And while that schedule isn't changing, if a Rush resident wants to set up an appointment for their assessor outside of those 4 hours, they could choose any other time of the week and would only have to make the 10-minute drive up to the Henrietta Town Hall. So today they don't have that option. And finally, it will help the school district when they are looking at what the effect of a proposed budget will have on the tax rate, since there will now be a single level assessment across the two towns. So it will always be the same tax rate. Today, if the two towns have a different level assessment, which is the case almost every year, they have to calculate a different tax rate. It makes it difficult, harder to calculate, but even more so difficult to explain to residents. So this will make that a lot clearer and more transparent for residents when the school is talking about the budget. So we think it's beneficial all around, and both town boards passed the agreement. It takes effect November 16th. We've already posted for the job, and anyone interested should go to henrietta.org/jobs. The new town court's progressing well. It was funny, some people were joking that why are we building a purple court, which that just happened to be the color of the insulation foam boards. They said the town color is blue. Well, wouldn't you know, later that same week, they started wrapping it with the vapor barrier, which happened to be blue. So I wrote back to them. It was on Facebook. I wrote back and said, see, answered your problem. We're turning the court blue. So, but the roof is going up, as in the roofing material. So it should be watertight soon. The interior framing's all up. So once it's watertight, they'll be able to start doing electrical work and stuff like that, interior installation, things like that. We're still on schedule for end of spring, early summer opening for the new town court. We presented our tentative budget and decided as a board to include a $200,000 increase in the tax levy, which represents about a 4% increase over last year. This is our first increase in 5 years, since, or arguably 6, since the library referendum was passed. Health insurance costs and New York State retirement costs have both increased by double digits. That's where we're really getting hit hard. In addition, even though library costs have risen, state aid for library has not. As such, towns are having to pick up more and more of those costs through property taxes. And of course, we've had steady increases over the years that we've been able to cover through windfall sales tax revenues. But our town's grown those 6 years, and we've added additional people in highway and in grounds to deal with the new properties. That's begun to catch up to us. So we could actually have covered it with fund balance this year, but it would have meant we wouldn't have had a whole lot of fund balance to apply to next year's budget. So it would have meant a much larger increase next year. The board decided that it was time to increase the levy, as that would mean a smaller increase this year and not a big impact next year. So I will note that this increase is independent of the additional increase that would occur if the Spray Park referendum passes. In that case, the plan would be to raise the levy by $300,000 or about 6%. The Spray Park itself calls for a $200,000 increase. If we're going to put that in, we would cut the other increase in half, so as to minimize the impact on taxpayers. And then finally, the new lighting for the refurbished basketball, tennis, and pickleball courts is now operational. And we've been seeing a lot of evening use on all three of the court systems, all three sports. They're energy efficient and dark sky compliant lights. So it was interesting. I was coming out of town hall at the end of our rather long town board meeting, and it was just before the park was closing, so the lights were still on. I was very pleasantly surprised at how minimal their impact was. So they light up the court really well, but you could see that they're there, but like they don't shine. They're not bright in your eyes or anything like that. So these new modern LED lights with their ability to really control where they cast the lights are a great addition. And the other good news in that regards is the Public Service Commission finally approved the purchase of the lights, all of our street lights from RG&E. So we're in the process of taking those over. We're going to replace them with the newer, more efficient LED lights. And the great news is all that is being done through something called an energy performance contract, which basically means it's all being paid for out of the savings, the energy savings. And the contractors are doing the work to guarantee that. So the point is, if we don't see enough savings to cover the cost, they have to make up the difference. So it's a great way to we're getting about $4 million of lighting upgrades at no expense to the taxpayer. They're essentially done as a lease to own. And the lease again is being paid for through the energy savings from the use of the new equipment. So that's it.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Dan, Mike, anything more to add?
No, just thanks again for having us.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Remember, if you'd like to see this program when it airs, just like our Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And each Sunday at 1 o'clock, when it begins to be broadcast, those platforms will notify you so you can watch it. Otherwise, if you prefer to read it, the transcript is printed in next week's paper. And we'll also add some things if some of the people who are missing this call today send us things, as they often do. So that's all for this week. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye for now.
Take care.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com.